Welcome. In this video, we're going to be looking at Excel. We're going to be looking at those features of Excel which you will need to master in order to get successfully through the Biology 312 labs. This is not an introduction to Excel in any detail or an overview of Excel or even a primer in Excel. If you want to know more about Excel, I would suggest that you go to YouTube, type in Introduction to Excel, and you'll find lots and lots of videos that cover every single aspect of Excel. What we're going to do here is look at a number of features of Excel that will be very important throughout this course. The first is how to enter data, which is pretty easy and trivial in Excel. More importantly, we're going to be looking at how to calculate descriptive statistics, that is summaries of these data sets that you've entered, how to manipulate the data within a data set, and finally, how to draw a graph in Excel. Obviously, the very first thing you need to be able to do is enter data. We've already entered most of the little dummy data set that we're going to be playing with, but we still need to add the last number. So to enter that number, we need to go to the cell where we wish to enter it, which in this case is cell B6. Hit your left mouse button. That'll highlight the cell. Type in the number, whatever it is. In this case, it's 3. Hit enter, and we're done. Once we've finished entering our data, the next thing that we normally want to do is calculate some descriptive statistics that summarize this data. Typically, we want 3 descriptive statistics: the total, the mean, and the median, though there are lots and lots of other descriptive statistics you can calculate. And the first thing you need to do when calculating the descriptive statistics is to go to the cell, in this case B7, where you want to store a particular descriptive statistic. Then to select that again, hit the left button on your mouse. Then go up here to what's known as the function bar, click on the F, and that'll bring up a bunch of menus that show you all the different functions that are available in Excel. In this case, we're looking at some commonly used functions, and the one we're particularly interested in is the sum, since we want to add up all the numbers. You need to make sure that the program is adding up the numbers over the right range. So in this case, the numbers we're interested in adding up go from cell B2 to B6, and the program has already figured that out by looking above that particular cell where we're going to be storing the total to see where the numbers are. And it's already done that correctly. And so in this case, we can just hit OK, and voila, here is the total, which conveniently happens to be 100. To get the mean, we do pretty much the same thing. Again, we need to find the cell, highlight the cell where we're going to put the mean, go up to the function bar to select the right function. In this case, it's the average function. Then we need to select the cells for which the average function is going to operate. And again, we need to make sure that it's from cells B2 to B6. The program sometimes makes mistakes here. Hit OK, and there we have our mean. It happens to be 20 in this case. Finally, we need to calculate our third descriptive statistic. We need to do this the same way as we did with the other two. The first thing we need to do is indicate the cell where we want to store it, which in this case is B9. Then we go to the function bar to find the function, which in this case is the median. And then we need to make sure that median is looking at the right range of cells, which is from B2 to B6. Okay, you can check to make sure that you've got the right range of cells by looking at the function bar, because it'll show you in the equation. Hit OK, and voila, the median for this particular set of data happens to be 7. Once we've calculated the descriptive statistics, we often want to manipulate the data. In this case, what we want to do as an illustration is look at the data in column B, which is cover, and relativize it. That is, express the cover based on the total amount of cover in all 5 quadrants. Well, to do that, we first need again to select the cell where we're going to store the relative cover data. So for the first quadrant, that'll be in C2. Then we need to set up a simple equation in the function bar to calculate the relative cover, which is simply the value of the cover in quadrant 1, which is B2, divided by the total cover, which is found in cell B7. And then we hit that little check mark up here in the function bar, and we find out that the total cover is 1/10 of all the cover in the 5 quadrats, which makes sense. It's 10 out of 100 or 0.1. One of the more useful features of Excel is that we can take an equation like the one that we set out for quadrat number 1 that we used to calculate the relative cover in that quadrat and apply it to all other comparable situations. And you do that by going to that cell, moving the cursor to the lower right-hand corner of the cell, pressing down on the left mouse button, and then dragging the cursor to all the other cells where you want to apply it. But you notice there's something wrong here. Although we did the first calculation right, that is, it calculated the relative cover to be 1/10, it didn't do it for the others. And the reason for that is a peculiarity of Excel. So what went wrong? Well, we can see that by looking at where we originally set up the equation, which was for quadrat number 1. And you'll see what's happening is we're dividing the value in B2, which is in fact the cover in quadrat number 1, by B7, which is in fact the total for all 5 quadrats. So we're doing the calculation right in the first cell. But let's look at quadrant number 5. For quadrant number 5, we're dividing B6, which is in fact the value of the cover in quadrant number 5, but we're now dividing it by B11, which, if you look down, is actually an empty quadrat. So there's something wrong here. What's happening and why we're getting a mistake is that when we take an equation that we developed, for example, in this case for quadrat number 1, and apply it to all the other quadrats, the program assumes that B2 and B7 are both variables. And as you move from one cell to another, it automatically increments them. But we don't want that to happen in this case because we want to treat B7, in fact, as a constant. In Excel, to indicate that you've got a constant, you need to go back to the formula bar and add a $ before the number of a particular cell. That indicates that we want to treat that cell as a constant. Click OK. Then let's go back and apply the new formula to the other quadrats. And look, now we have the right values. Now we've actually calculated the relative cover for all of the 5 quadrats. We can also go ahead and do a similar thing by taking the formula for the sum and applying it to the new column. And you'll see that all these sum up to 1, which is exactly what we expect when we calculate the relative value of something. Well, the last thing we want to do in this video is illustrate quickly how to draw a graph in Excel. The first step is to highlight the columns that you want to graph. In this case, it's the first and the second column, the distance, and cover. Then go up to the ribbon and hit Insert. And there are lots of things you can insert into an Excel spreadsheet, including a whole bunch of different styles of graphs. What we're going to do is do a scatter plot. Pick this type of scatter plot, in this case without connecting the dots with lines, and here it is. The only thing we need to do still to finish off the graph is to go ahead and label the axes in this graph so we know what they are. To do that, we go up here, hit Layout, and go to Axes Titles, and put an axis on the primary horizontal axis, which is the x-axis. You type the information that you want in the axis up here in the formula bar. So what we're plotting is distance along the x-axis. So we can just type in distance. When we're done, just hit the check, and that'll add distance. We need to do a similar thing to the y-axis. So again, we need to go up to the layout, hit the axis titles. In this case, it's the primary vertical axis, and there's a number of choices here. What we'll just do is a vertical title. If the title is running up and down, again, we go to the formula bar and type in the name of this axis, which in this case is cover. Hit OK, and there we go. Both the y-axis and the x-axis are now labeled. Now, Excel tends to generate a bunch of extraneous things that we don't really need. For example, a title, we can eliminate that by highlighting it and then hitting delete. And likewise, the cover, since we've only got cover being plotted. And there we are. This would be a perfectly acceptable figure for a lab report in Biology 312. Well, that's it. That's our short introduction to Excel. Hope you learned enough so that when you're doing your lab reports, you'll be able to enter data, manipulate data, and if necessary, draw a nice graph with that data. Bye-bye.